welcome everybody to Professional Witches. I'm Fiona Gazard, the Professional Witch, and I am joined today by Rachel Maria Bell, astrologer, but she's not just an astrologer, and you'll find out why. She is the Cosmic Witch, so forever labelled now. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me on here. Very excited to meet you today.
Yes, thank you for coming on. And let's be honest, this isn't the first time we've met, but it's the first time my listeners have come across you, and even me, because this is the first episode. Woo, woo, woo. So,
Yay.
yay.
That's
So,
so exciting.
oh my God, I'm so excited. I feel like the spirits are excited about this conversation in particular. So yeah.
Me
We
too. Let's see what they've
we
got to say.
I mean, I had to start hitting record because we were having such a good conversation in the warm up to this, and I was like, this needs to go on record. So yeah, let's hit the record button. But first of all, Rachel, tell the listeners a bit about how you got into astrology. What's the thing? What is the real thing? Because I mean, you're more than just an astrologer. Let's be fair. You
Hmm.
bring a lot of other gifts into it. So
Yeah, so I had what I now call latent gifts all my life. So just as a little illustration, when I was about 8 years old, I would sit on my bedroom floor, grab a piece of paper, draw a circle, divide it into 12, and then I'd go, what goes in this? And I think, have I just drawn a clock? No, 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 no. Something else needs to go in it.
mm,
And I couldn't think of planets. So I used to just draw music in it. But it's quite interesting to look back and think of that because I do actually see the frequencies of how planetary energy comes through people as expressing a frequency, like playing a tune. So I
mm.
think it was always there in me. And then when I was 16, I picked up my first astrology book and I was like, oh, this is everything. I just like inhaled the book. Now, this is in like a context of having had a really quite mainstream, what I feel now was fairly repressed, but a mainstream upbringing and quite heavy religious, just Church of England doctrine.
Mm.
So, yeah. So in the kind of in the environment of that, astrology was just about permitted, but all of the other things that I could see and hear and witness, that was not. So I was a very quiet, kind of shut down, better not say about all these other things I can see, because there's a huge amount of third eye activity going on for me.
Mhm.
So all of this started to kind of, and I never got rid of astrology as a thing. It was always a hobby, but I had such a mainstream job. I actually went into business lecturing, and you can't get more straight and boring than that. I mean, well, to be fair, it wasn't utterly boring, but it's very different to what I do now.
Mm.
However, during my awakening, it was then that I started reclaiming my ability to basically spontaneously quantum travel, being able to have the quantum realm open. So knowing myself as a multidimensional being. And of course, this was all like it required so much healing and working out what the heck was going on in the mental realm
Mm.
because all of this stuff had been called hocus pocus, not real, you know,
Yeah, a lot of
dodgy, weird, crazy
deconditioning.
shit.
A lot of
Yeah.
deconditioning. And I think
Oh,
I relate to that. A lot of
yeah.
the listeners are going to relate to that. Hopefully, all of them will relate to that because, yeah, it is. I mean, for me, astrology growing up was like reading the horoscopes in the paper and the cynics going, huh, you tell me 1/12 of the population are going through exactly this at the same time. But I always read it because you know my chart better than I do. But I'm bang in the middle of Cancer,
Yeah.
and so those horoscopes actually always were pretty accurate for me. And I think they took the median of the the sign and blah blah blah. So for me, it actually made a lot of sense. But you couldn't like say that because you like unless you were like Mystic Meg, who was one of those astrologers. Um,
Mhm.
and it was there were, remember Mystic Septic Peg or something was one of the
Yeah,
tarot
yeah.
characters and stuff. And so it was, yeah, it was like laughed at a lot. But now people are going, actually, hang on a minute. And the more people like you come forward and interpreting charts, and when you read my chart that time, it was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
just ridiculously bang on.
Well, it's almost like, it's the way that I see it is absolutely the opposite of what you just said. You know, how people would say, let's denigrate it and mock astrology because 1/12 of the population can't all be acting in the same way. No, that's quite right. We're all individuals. We all
Yeah,
have
exactly.
we all have an individual birth chart, and that's what makes us completely unique. So we're
Yeah.
constantly emitting our own soul's frequency imprint that we chose at the point of our incarnation. We chose to be that, to express in that snapshot of the heavens, and that's imbued in us. And the more that we can understand ourselves through that deep inner work of coming to go, who am I? What did I originally intend to do and be in this lifetime, and express more of ourselves in that way, then everything adds up. And the more people become energetically astute, the more people heal, the more people consciously awaken, then the more people go, oh, actually, there's something in this. And of course, there is. It's been absolutely amazing this past year, and particularly the past 6 months. I'm seeing so many more people in really regular mainstream jobs suddenly going, do you know what? I'm awakening and I want a reading, and they're finding it's amazing and just accepting it in ways that even a couple of years ago it wasn't accepted. So yeah,
It's
really
really
cheering.
it's really on the rise, and I think all the crap that's been going on in the world the last, I say, few years, but let's be honest, it's been building up for a long, long time. People are starting to open their eyes. They are starting to see that what they're being told by the powers that be, on the 3D at least, is not necessarily like the truth. And so starting to open up and see more of this. And what I wanted to touch on as well is you said like we're all individuals, and absolutely we are. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a girl I grew up with who was born on the same day as me, yet we were completely different. But I was born at 2 a.m. She was born at 2 p.m.
Mm.
And just that, I mean, we couldn't
Yeah, yeah.
be more different. Yet, the last couple of weeks, we've had these solar flares, and you said something conjunct something in Taurus, and my
Yeah.
brain goes, tell me what that means, Rachel. Um, but a lot of people have been kind of feeling a funk, and they do that quite regularly. You see people on Facebook say going, "Oh my God, something terrible's been happening," blah blah blah, and
I
there's
think,
some event, but
yeah,
then others don't feel that. So I mean, sort
I
of
think more
unpack
people are noticing ascension symptoms. More people are realizing which cosmic events they are particularly sensitive to. And just as an explanation, like over the past 3 months, I would say we've had an extraordinary and extreme volume of unusually significant cosmic events all occurring at the same time. And with it's almost like, the planets have got the entire sky to go at. They've got 12 signs to go at, and they've all just been sitting all together in this block, and it's been
that.
very much overloaded with Aries and Taurus energy. So
Mhm.
we had that enormous solar eclipse, the new moon solar eclipse on the 8th of April. That was a big event. It was like really, really hyped up in the media, but it was also a huge cosmic event. And don't forget, that people are evolving in many, many ways. if somebody's decided to go for Reiki healing for the past year, they're going to have opened chakras that they didn't know existed before. Even if they don't have the cognitive awareness of what's happening, suddenly
Mm.
their ascension symptoms will be twice as noticeable as 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, our pets are ascending, but we're not teaching them about astrology or whatever, are we? So anyway, so in April, we had this big solar eclipse. Now, there's a lot of planetary activity in Aries, and it's calling everyone forward into expressing more Aries characteristics. So, where are we prepared to take full self-responsibility in our lives? Where do
Mhm.
we want to be the self-leader? Where have we been playing small in codependency, people pleasing, all for the sake of peace, harmony, unity? But you don't get to that unless you're prepared to show up in full unapologetic truth and self-love. So it's all about what's going on your own journey. And that's
Mm.
what we're all being called into. The only trouble with having a lot of activity in Aries is the ruler of Aries is Mars. And you know what Mars is the god of?
Or
War. Mm. So, of course, humankind, if we can even call humans kind, has been playing out some rather deep shit for the last few millennia.
Mm.
And let's face it, when we look around the world, that's still going on.
Absolutely.
So when there's a heightened activity of planetary energy in Aries, yes, it's calling everyone forward into power, but it's also possibly reminding everyone where they sit on the continuum of Aries Libra. So it's self and other. So it's almost like everybody's having this volcanic explosion of who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? How can I affect change in this life? And these are brilliant questions to ask.
They really
And the
are.
answer, yeah, and a lot of the answers to these can be found in the personal astrology chart.
Yeah,
A clue.
absolutely. It's all there. You said something earlier before I hit the record button that I want you to repeat. It was about my chart.
Mm,
Because I think it was because I've been feeling these funky energies these last 2 weeks. Because it was about talking about coming forward, reclaiming power, taking responsibility. It was maybe 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago. I've been thinking about doing this podcast for years, a couple of years, and putting it off, blah blah blah. Who's going to want to listen? Blah blah blah. And then I took on this professional witch identity, stepped into it really, and so that sort of took on the identity of it. But then I kind of stepped in to this thing and was really excited, and then I kind of got hit by a blast of self-doubt, and then you said something that explained it all beautifully about
okay.
the chart, because again, you know my chart. I see a circle with some lines in and some symbols, but you interpret it and it makes sense. So what was it you'd said?
Oh, there was this massive event that we have had now over the past, oh gosh, how long? I can't remember how long, but anyway, planet Uranus has been going through the sign of Taurus for quite a while now. And Jupiter got to exactly the same position. So when we've got two planets at the exact same degree in the sky, this causes what we call a conjunction. It's almost like an explosion of the two planets
Uh-huh.
coming together, fusing.
So they're like
And
in alignment, because
yeah,
just to pause a second there, I don't know if you know the app Stellarium. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
I don't have it,
So
but
it's an amazing, beautiful app.
yeah.
And on your phone, you can like move around like this, and it shows you what's in the sky at different points.
Mm. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Amazing. And so I was looking at it a couple of weeks ago, and I saw, and I can't remember which planets they were, you'd know, but the moon was there, the sun was there, I think Venus, Uranus, and they were literally in a line.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just had a moment of, well, F me, the planets are aligned.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like,
There's been so much activity all in the same area. Everything's going on in Aries and Taurus. So we had this big conjunction occurring at 21 degrees of Taurus. Now, this just happens to be the exact degree angle out of 360 degrees to choose from that your ascendant is at. So the ascendant in your chart, you might know it as the rising sign, is like
yeah,
your personal sunrise. So this is how others see you. It's your entire self and bodily energy, how you show up, how you feel, your whole visibility piece, the whole self-actualization, who am I piece. And yours is at 21 degrees of Taurus. And that's the exact position where we had the conjunction of Uranus and Jupiter. Now, this was an event that we haven't seen since 1941. Yeah, so it's really no wonder that such a mammoth event for somebody who is so consciously awakened that you are would really cause your energy field to experience that in a massive way. So what I would be predicting is a massive explosion of upgrades, because Uranus, planet Uranus, is like the bridge between the divine realms and the seven chakras of the body. So it's associated with the eighth chakra, the soul star chakra. Okay.
yeah.
And
Wow, I'm getting. Mm,
Jupiter is release, it's abundance, it's hugeness. Wherever we see Jupiter in the chart, wherever it impacts another planet, we go large. So for you, it's like having this massive awareness right into the selfhood of who you are, how you are seen by others, how you show up, what you're doing with your life. And Jupiter's causing this massive explosion of new cosmic awareness and higher dimensional thinking into your energy field.
wow, I'm getting chills. I'm tingling all over. This is my first episode of my podcast. I've been getting a lot of messages from various places that like, all right, let's just talk about me. But
Let's talk about you for sure.
I never talk about me. I actually never talk about me. I talk about my clients and me.
Do
Um,
it.
so yeah, the things coming through, that's the thing that brings me success is not the thing that I think is going to bring me success. So I've been doing this my tarot coaching, which is amazing and I love it. But what I've always wanted to do was like broadcast my message, and my message generally is the message of many healers. I think that we're all amazing beings. And if you feel that you're not an amazing being, all it means is you haven't found the thing that makes you amazing yet. And so my work centers around helping people to find the thing that makes them amazing. And I'm very good at that. So the fact that I can put this out, and I really hope that this is prophetic in that lots of people hear this and hear your message and my message and all the messages that I'm going to be putting out of all the other amazing witches that I'll be interviewing. Because for me, it's time to reclaim this whole term of witch, because people think of witches as broomsticks, pointy hats, cackling over cauldrons. And for some witches, that is absolutely a big part of what they do and who they are. But back in the original sort of terminology, a witch is a healer. And the people who were in the witch trials persecuted were female healers, the village wise woman, the woman who stood out a little bit, did things a bit differently. And actually, that was demonized because it wasn't in line with church values and the sort of the Christian, the patriarchal kind of narrative. So it's time we really redress that balance. So that's what I'm here with this doing.
Yeah, I fully hear you and support you on all of that. And you know what? I've got to be honest, I think that persecution is it's just so prevalent. It's prevalent everywhere, and the level of confusion about it and cognitive dissonance and fear that still hangs around in so many people. It's no wonder that people who've got these gifts can't quite get to say them, declare them, find them. So 100%, your work is, wow, bringing people into their true power. And it feels like you've just had this incredible cosmic blast of purpose to show up even more fully in helping other women reclaim, their specific
Mm,
gifts.
mm. And it genuinely is. I mean, I think we're really fortunate in this country. I say this country, I'm actually in France, you're in England, but in this part of the Western world, that in Europe, we're quite fortunate to be able to actually say these things without any real risk to our safety. And that's not the case in a lot of the world. And even I know very talented psychics in America who can't declare those gifts. And there's one great lady that I know. She's very, very intuitive, very psychic, but she's a school teacher and she cannot literally fulfill. Maybe she could, but she feels if she went, like, came out as a witch, that actually she wouldn't be safe because of where she lives in America. It's
Right.
very Bible Belt. Do you know what I mean? It's in a place where you would think it would be okay to be free, the land of free. It's really kind of not so free. And
It's awful. And yeah, I mean, you do make a really good point that we are more free in real terms, although I do also think that there are so many energies and remembrances coded within so many of us
mm,
that we are remembering or not quite. We're actually shutting down our memory of those times when there was persecution.
mm,
And there were so many times. It's literally littered
yeah,
throughout history. And the same kinds of activities that witches were persecuted for, they were, the same kinds of things. If somebody, somebody might have been canonized for. It's the same kind
mm,
of gifts. It's just insane. So
it
there's no logic to be had unless you break free of the whole damn lot of it. That's what I found. And I had such a long and actually quite painful awakening because of the deconditioning that was necessary.
yeah, and it can be really quite painful,
Yeah.
in many ways. Oh my goodness, like this, there seems to be this kind of thing of women needing permission a lot of the time for owning themselves and owning who they are and what they can do. And so breaking free of that is a big challenge for, well, for individuals and for womankind as a whole, I feel.
Yeah.
So it's really important stuff, because I think you do a similar, in your way, opening people up to what their kind of blueprint is,
Yes. Well,
you
it's
know.
their individualized, unique gifts for sure.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so often, the thing that we actually are most gifted at, quite often we're not even noticing because it's such a natural gift that
Mm,
when, after my awakening, I was then gifted with being able to kind of see a person's soul through the lens of the chart. But it wasn't until I'd gone through that awakening that I could use astrology in a powerful way. So before it had been very much like a mix between the emotions and psychology and cognitive processes. But following my awakening, where I reclaimed my multidimensional self, reclaimed my ability to travel the quantum realm, once I'd reclaimed that part, then I could use astrology in a way that was meaningful And
Hmm.
like you say, it's about delivering to somebody and calling them through activation into remembrance. What are these gifts that you really have? And quite often I can see it and speak it, and then they go, "Oh, yeah, that's what I do." And I'm like, "Well, let's say that." You go
Yeah.
out and say that thing because it's amazing to me. I see so many wise medicine women and healers who've got the ability coming through their hands, or they know which herbs to use to heal a person.
Mm.
Some people can even see what's physically wrong with somebody in their energy field. And I'm like, celebrate this. It's not a gift that everyone has. Come
No,
on.
it's not. This is it. Yeah, it's got to be normalized, I feel. It's got to very much be normalized. And the only way that's going to happen is for people to have these kinds of conversations and really, yeah, ah, be okay with it, you know?
That's it. And also because you and I are, we're both projectors and we're designed to see what's going on and
Hmm.
speak it. Um, there's that, oh, what do I want to say? It's it's all about the unique identity, the unique gifts of the individual, isn't it?
Hmm.
And yet, unless you kind of got to break through quite a lot of personal barriers to go, what is that uniqueness? What
Hmm.
do we call it? Because we then have to go through, let's let's not go into that cognitive realm of, oh, this is something that I went and got a certificate for. No, you were born with this gift.
Yes, thank you for that, because there's nothing that annoys me more than people saying, I do this and I've got this qualification and that qualification and that qualification. So therefore that makes me better at it than the other person who does that thing. That honestly, grinds my gears, let's put a polite one in. Um, oils my um because if you're like naturally gifted at something, you can get all the qualifications in the world. Or if you're not gifted at something, you can
Mm.
have all the qualifications in the world. I saw somebody on Facebook saying, I'm a coach, and it annoys me when I see other coaches who don't have a qualification call themselves a coach, but I've got a qualification, so I'm a better. But the way she put it, I thought, love, you're the last person I would go to for coaching, just from the vibe you're putting out here. And how precious you are about a word. Like, I don't care how many qualifications you've got. If you help people, the evidence speaks for itself. And I know people who've got no qualifications, but very gifted and talented at the thing that they're doing. They help so many people. That's the important thing. But people hide behind pieces of paper because they need that validation and that, like, what's the word I'm looking for, Rachel? You
Well,
know, the,
it is external validation, and
yeah.
it's seeking proof and evidence. And you know, I've got 3 university degrees, and I probably went out and got them through clever girl syndrome of worrying that I was the freaky, crazy child who would otherwise get called, mentally insane because I could see extra stuff, right?
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
and as a reaction to that, and because I love learning, I literally do love learning and I love teaching, but having 3 university degrees, none of them have anything to do with astrology. So I do get asked quite a lot of times, have you got qualifications in astrology? And I'm like, I've been reading about it, studying it, and creating charts for 30 years.
Mhm.
And, when I think back to 2012, I sat for about, for about a 2 year period of my life, I would sit by the sea and write poetry about the moon and study its cycles and the tides. And I'm like, no one gave me a qualification for that. It came from my soul,
Yeah, yeah, and that's where the universal truth comes from at the end of the day, because we are all one. And like, there's nothing like sitting by the shore writing poetry about the moon that proves that more profoundly, quite frankly.
with my
You
baby
know,
in a
I mean, you can know the physics of how the moon works and how it has an effect on, and how the physics of the planets work and how it all literally holds the universe together through forces. But that, what does that mean at the end of the day? You know, what does that actually mean?
Well,
Uh,
I don't know whether I ever told you the story of when I actually got my own, what I could consider like my activation, and I set up my business within a week of this, and I
mhm.
had a really profound dream. So it was February 2020. We're just about to head into you know what.
Yeah. World's about to go to shit.
Everything was about to kick off. And I had this really profound dream, and I'd come completely out of my, myself. And I'd gone to visit planet Uranus. And Uranus is here again. It's like Uranus wants to be the star of the show. And I had this amazing dream where I was going round with Uranus, but almost like speeded up because, of course, time's only relative, isn't it? It's time's relative from the Earth point of view. I'd gone to join Uranus, and I thought, oh, I'm traveling round with Uranus on this speeded up like orbit. And I could see that there was a different celestial body, like over there in the distance, like opposite Uranus. And I was hearing the word opposition. I thought, what's Uranus in opposition to? I could see all these planets going round. And then I went, Chiron. And I came out of the dream, and I truly believed that I'd been to visit these planets. I was like, I've been there. I've been there. I've become the spokesperson of Uranus like this, Anyway, I was so convinced that this was a real thing I'd seen. I looked it up, and it is. So Uranus was opposite Chiron for 40 years between 1950 and 1990. So anyone born between in that 40-year period, all of us,
Mhm.
we have that particular um, aspect in our chart. And it was really, really unusual because it only happens like every sort of, well, the last time it happened was something like 1845, and it happens for 2 years normally. So it just
Mm.
does this 2 year thing, but it did it for 40 years. And what it does is it shines a light on our wounding and healing. So since then, I was like, oh my goodness, all of us who've incarnated in this 40-year period, we are here to get to grips with the wounds of humanity and to heal them. I thought, I've got to do something about this. I now have to use astrology to help people do this.
It isn't it strange? Once you know, you can't unknow this kind of thing.
That,
You can't just sit there and go, I can
yeah,
help people and not do it, you know?
no, no,
It's just not possible. It's not possible. So
no. And it
no.
can come from the most unusual of places. Certainly, I didn't go, get a qualification for that. I had a dream where I visited Uranus. I mean,
No,
it
but where's your
seems
certificate about it, Rachel? Honestly, without a certificate, I am not interested.
right, I'm going to go back to Uranus and ask him for a certificate.
I'm sure he'll write you one. But, this is the thing with qualifications. All that is ultimately is somebody else taught a thing and they taught other people a thing. And there's a certificate to say that you learned that thing from that person. But
Yes,
who told that person the thing? That person found that thing out themselves. So
yes.
what's to stop us from finding a thing out ourselves?
Mhm.
And I write myself a certificate. Yes,
Yeah.
I can read tarot cards, and but it's more than just reading a tarot card. It's not just saying, oh, you got the page of wands. It's about this, that, or the other. It's about putting that into the context, and it's like the same with your chart, isn't it? Yeah, this thing is in there, but in context of this other thing going on around here, it means this, and it's all about the interpretation, and that comes from within,
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yes, it
Ooh,
does. It does. Well,
yeah.
teaching an astrology course myself at the moment, but all of my teaching is very much like me encouraging and facilitating the other person to work out what kind of interpreter they are.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's got to
And
come from within. It's like finding
exactly.
within your own heart.
Hmm.
Observe, it's like observation skills.
And feel and trust.
100%.
Trust. Trust yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, what then is happening at the moment planetarily that we need to know about? And in the coming sort of weeks, that is something that really people need to be aware of. And who is it in particular going to affect as well? That's the other.
Yeah, okay. So the particular effects can't be seen unless we can have a look at the person's birth chart, because
Oh,
with the whole horoscope, it literally means the hour that you were born. So we do
yeah.
need the precise time of birth, which I do get a lot of people come to me and say, if they don't have a time of birth, I can get it through a pendulum as long as they believe that I can. And I do have to tune into the event of their birth. I just wanted to say that it's possible. Um, so yeah, the what's going on for us all, there will continue to be quite a lot of solar flare activity. So for the people do get who are cosmically attuned, let's be honest, that's like, the cosmic stellar gateway is the 12th chakra. So when you are cosmically attuned, basically you're going to have more of these symptoms. So don't beat yourself up by it, and if anybody's saying, oh, well, I'm all right, what's wrong with you? Don't take any of that shit. Okay. That's point number one.
Wrong with anyone.
Yeah, or literally ever. Come and see us and we'll just encourage you to not take that shit.
Absolutely. Embrace it. Embrace it. Oh, but everything's gone to shit. Embrace it. It's meant to be happening like this. It's going to be okay. Just ride it through. We'll
Yeah,
teach you to surf it, and it's fine.
ride it. I love it. Yeah, ride these energies. So,
Hmm.
um, the
Tap
sun
in.
the sun is joining Jupiter still in Taurus. So these planets like Uranus and Jupiter are still having this dance in Taurus. It's very close still. The sun is there now as well. So there's a lot of disruptive change-making activity going on. And yeah, so there is disruption and change, and we will continue to see that in the world. We can't just force everybody to be, well, you can't force anybody to do anything, or nor would you want to. However, I do think, sorry to say this, and a lot of people won't agree with me, but I do think there's quite a bit of bullshit around the whole let's just pray for peace and unity and it will happen. Historically, it kind of doesn't, and everybody will be acting out and needing to actually express what's truthful and present for them. Full
Mm-hmm.
stop.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So, with this being in Taurus, people who are considering themselves more consciously awakened, spiritually awakened, who have been on a big personal development journey, will most likely be at a new stage of reclaiming their self-worth and values and charging appropriately and standing up in their own truth and self-value. So like Taurus, plant your four hooves, hold your energy field, declare, this is my field, this is what I'm doing, and I'm not going to let any shit in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one really great vibe to
So
take
do you think people
forward.
are going to really assert their boundaries in like cement, like brick wall style?
Yes.
Enough of this. I'm sick of my own shit. I'm gonna assert this now.
Correct, yes. And
Excellent.
it's that spiritual armor as well, knowing that you've got your boundaries on, because we might all be saying the same kind of thing. We might all be talking about awakening, but if somebody has a different version of that to you, it's okay. Just let them be adjacent. Just let them go say what they need to say to the people who they're here to activate. And we keep
Mm.
on, you just keep in your own lane, basically
Mm.
doing your own thing, because there are people who need to hear your message said in your way.
It's absolutely, and like this is why there are so many of us, because
Yes.
the way I say it and the way you say it's going to land differently with different people, and there's a lot of people out there that need these kinds of messages in their own personal part of their healing journey, in the different parts. Do you know what I mean? As a
Yeah,
puzzle, it comes together
it does. And like,
slowly.
so for example, you're embodying that first house of Taurus. So you are holding that safe haven for other people to come and work with you, because you're kind of going, this is a safe, protected field where we don't allow any bullshit.
Hmm.
So when people come to you, it's because they need that, because perhaps they've been on a dramatic, chaotic journey and they're kind of looking for that safe haven, no nonsense,
Hmm.
secure approach.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really, really relevant is the fact that we have North Node in Aries. Now, it's already been there for a while and will continue to be, but it's really about people understanding their own, taking responsibility for their own stuff, coming into their own unique self-expression, and it requires deep courage and bravery. Now, we might not have been blessed with courage and bravery, or we might not have been encouraged to show them. Regardless, we're going to have to stand up and be more Aries. It's just how it is. And with having Chiron there as well, everyone is coming into contact with their wounding where they've not been allowed to shine their unique light, not been able to stand up in their own bravery and say, this is me, like from The Greatest Showman, this is me. The whole
On
mantra and
stage,
yeah.
colors, fireworks, the whole lot. Absolutely. Um, for those who don't know, me included, what is Chiron? Because it's not one of the planets that we know, is it? I mean, we know the names of the planets. Anyone who went to school knows the names of the planets, but
Yeah, so it sits between Saturn and Uranus, and it's an asteroid, basically, a centaur, and it's always shown in the chart because it represents wounding and healing. So and there's always a caveat, that the point at which we've experienced our deepest core wounds is
mhm,
what, once we've worked through them, we become blessed with the ability to heal others in that particular way. And we become quite fierce advocates of, I won't let anyone go through what I went through. That vibe.
I get that completely.
Yeah.
I get that completely. Yeah. So in the sense that for me, because for various reasons, not going into detail, I was that this side of me was repressed for so long. I connect with those who've had their side repressed and want to find that they've been like doing things for other people and ignoring their own gifts. And so wanting to find their own gifts and go forward with them, that's who I really
Mm.
connect with. That makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense. And also, you are in the same generation as me with Chiron in Taurus natally. So it makes so much sense about what you're saying about unpacking gifts, because Taurus is really what we possess. So Taurus is
Understand.
about possessions. So it's you know, the picture on the wall, it's the piano, it's the car, it's what we possess. But on a deeper level, it's also the gifts we possess. And when we are able to celebrate that and go out and use those gifts, the exchange is so magical.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of Taurus in my chart, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
rising, Venus and Mars, and now
Yeah,
Chiron.
yeah,
I
yeah.
completely didn't know that bit, so thank you very much for the enlightenment. Honestly, you know, if you ever wonder why this thing is happening to you or why you're like a certain thing, you definitely need to go and get your chart read by Rachel because she makes it all make so much sense, and you make the when you see a flaw in yourself, you highlight how it's not a flaw, it's actually a gift and it's a part of who you are and a thing to be celebrated, and that in itself is a wonderful wonderful thing, and a great thing that you bring to the world. So
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for saying that.
no, it's true. As a projector, what kind of projector are you, by the way? I'm sure we had this conversation before, but
Okay, I'm a 1/4 splenic projector.
well, I'm a 5/1 again, splenic projector. So yes.
Yeah.
The only this is where human design comes into the picture as well, because combined with astrology gives you a wide and I need to get a human design expert on as a guest. My only defined centers are my spleen and my throat, which is why I don't do set questions. People who listen to this podcast for long enough will know that there are never any set questions. They're all going to be completely different lengths of time because they do what they do. You get what you get. I think, I speak, I react, I actively listen, and that's all part of my human design as a
Yeah.
projector. 5/1 splenic projector. You know who else was a 5/1 projector? Nelson Mandela. That's all I'm going to say. It's really interesting to Google who's famous and then put in your human design
Wow.
profile. Famous 5/1 projectors, Nelson Mandela. I was like,
Oh, what
I love
humanitarian.
it.
Oh,
Hopefully, I don't go to prison for 27 years, but I'm not saying
don't do
that's impossible. No. Depends what they find out.
that. We've got over those days.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, they can't burn us at the stake anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, we did that one.
Yeah, no, I've had that one. Thank you very much. That was past life. Um, but yeah, oh my goodness. So just to round things off for us, Rachel, if there was one message you wanted to give to the listeners, your like legacy mic dropper on the world.
You should have prepped me for this one. My mic dropper.
Just whatever, you know, you're a projector, you're a splenic projector, it's there. Go on. What would you say to the listeners?
I would say trust what is already inside you. This is a process. This lifetime is a process of remembrance and reclamation and celebration of all that you already are. And all it is taking off all that you're not. Is that?
Love it. Absolutely, wholeheartedly back that one up. Well,
Ah,
this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, Rachel. And you can bet your ass you will be coming on again to let us know what the fuck's going on now in in other cosmic events that happen. So yeah, stay tuned, everyone, because Rachel will be back, and we'll see you all next week for another professional witch. Thank you very much.
thanks so much.
Thank you.